Welcome to the deep dive. I'm really glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, if you are someone who is currently, trying to tackle a massive new skill, or maybe you're just feeling a bit stalled out in your current learning journey, today's material is going to be highly relevant to you.
Definitely.
Our mission today is to unpack a foundational piece of audio content. We are looking at a transcript from the very first session of a program called Learn English Step by Step.
Right.
And it's presented by a guide named Asakur. Now, on the surface, it's just a brief introductory lesson for language learners.
That's what it looks like at a glance, yeah.
Exactly. But when you look closely at the framework Asakur uses to introduce the course, it is essentially a blueprint for why anyone should commit to a long-term, difficult intellectual pursuit.
What's fascinating here is that Asakur does not begin by, just handing the learner a list of vocabulary words or a set of complex grammar rules.
Right. No conjugation tables right out of the gate.
Exactly. Instead, he spends this entire first session constructing a philosophical framework. He is mapping out how this specific language acts as a master key to the modern world.
A master key. I like that.
Yeah, before asking a student to do the really difficult work of learning, he establishes the stakes. He outlines 4 distinct, highly practical pillars that define the modern global landscape.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to take our time and rigorously examine each of these 4 pillars. And I want you, as you listen, to weigh these claims against your own professional or educational goals.
That's a great way to approach it.
So the first pillar Asakur establishes is that English is the foundation of education.
The foundation.
Yeah. The text explicitly claims that most academic books, research papers, and university materials are written in English. Let's scrutinize that for a moment.
Sure.
He isn't just saying English is helpful, he is categorizing it as the primary vehicle for advanced human knowledge.
It is a substantial claim, and it points to a very real dynamic in global academia. Consider the categories he specifically lists.
Academic books, research papers, university materials.
Right. He is outlining the entire life cycle of higher education there. Research papers represent the bleeding edge of discovery.
The new stuff.
Exactly. The conversation's happening right now in laboratories and think tanks. Then, academic books represent established, synthesized wisdom.
The textbooks.
Yes. And university materials are the day-to-day mechanisms for actually acquiring a degree. So by stating that these are predominantly in English, the source implies that the global academic community has effectively agreed on a single, shared language to accelerate the exchange of ideas.
But let me push back on that slightly. Does a researcher in a non-English speaking country actually need this language to do their job, or are they just waiting for that material to be translated?
Well, that is the crucial friction point. While translation certainly exists, it introduces a significant time delay.
The delay.
Right. In fast-moving fields like technology, medicine, or engineering, waiting 6 months or a year for a translated textbook or a localized version of a critical research paper.
You're behind.
It means you are inherently behind the curve. The text touches on this directly with its next major assertion, which is, if we understand English well, learning becomes easier.
I wanted to ask you about that specific phrase. Learning becomes easier. That seems like, honestly, a massive oversimplification.
How so?
While mastering English doesn't suddenly make advanced calculus or macroeconomics inherently easy to understand, the subjects themselves are still rigorous.
I would argue the text isn't claiming the subject matter itself loses its complexity.
Oh, okay.
Rather, it is talking about the removal of a secondary cognitive burden. Think about the mental energy required to study a complex new concept.
It's a lot.
Now imagine trying to grasp that concept while simultaneously filtering every sentence through a mental translation dictionary.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or struggling to parse poorly translated academic jargon. The cognitive load is doubled.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Exactly. When Asakur says learning becomes easier, he's highlighting the efficiency of direct access. You remove the friction of translation.
You go straight to the source.
Yes. You can engage directly with the source material, the original authors, and the global peer review process. The path from the information to your brain becomes clear and unobstructed.
That makes a lot of sense. You are essentially clearing the runway so your brain can focus entirely on the subject matter rather than the delivery mechanism.
Precisely.
Which naturally leads us to the second pillar the text introduces. Once you have acquired this education, you have to apply it.
You need a job.
Right. The source shifts its focus to the global career market, stating quite plainly that many international companies use English as their working language.
The term working language carries a lot of weight in corporate architecture. It means the language isn't just a tool for an occasional international sales call.
It's not just for the executives.
No, it is the operating system of the entire organization. It is the language of the internal memos, the project management software, the quarterly reports, and the casual strategy sessions.
It's everything.
If an organization declares a specific working language, it fundamentally shapes their entire hiring process.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Asukur makes a very definitive promise to his learners regarding this.
It does.
He states, if you can speak and write English well, you will have more job opportunities. It is presented as a direct, uncompromising equation.
A one-to-one correlation.
Exactly. But is it really that simple? Does the mere addition of language skills automatically equate to career advancement?
The text frames it as a prerequisite for scale. Let's examine the mechanics of a modern job search.
Okay.
If you do not possess this language proficiency, your professional ceiling is often dictated by geography.
Because you can only work where your language is spoken.
Right. Your talent, no matter how exceptional, is confined to the local talent pool and the specific companies operating within your native language sphere.
Which could be very small.
It could be. But the moment you acquire the ability to speak and write this working language well, you undergo a professional transition.
You decouple your skills from your physical location.
Precisely. You shift from being a local candidate to a global asset.
A global asset.
You could be living in a small rural town, but your economic sphere of influence expands to include multinational corporations spread across multiple continents.
That is a massive shift.
It is. The text highlights the need to speak English confidently in this context. That confidence is what allows an individual to step into a decentralized, remote, global workforce.
And actually participate.
And effectively advocate for their ideas among peers from wildly different backgrounds.
Yeah.
It is an immense multiplier for whatever primary technical or creative skills you already possess.
It is a multiplier that completely redefines your earning potential and your professional network.
Absolutely.
And that concept of a decentralized global network is the perfect bridge to the source's third pillar. We've covered education and career, but then Asukur points to the sheer volume of the digital information age.
The internet.
The internet. The text states that most of the information on the internet is available in English.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at how humanity currently stores and distributes its collective knowledge.
It's all online.
Right. We often operate under the assumption that the internet provides universal access to information for anyone with a Wi-Fi connection.
Just plug in and you know everything.
But this text suggests a significant structural limitation to that assumption.
Access to the network doesn't equal access to the data.
That is the reality the text is pointing toward. Asukur specifically categorizes the digital information into articles, videos, and courses.
The big three.
He is encompassing the full spectrum of modern digital consumption, from daily news and cultural media to structured, self-directed education platforms.
Everything we consume.
The text implies that the vast majority of this digital universe is generated, hosted, and moderated in English.
So to put that into perspective for you, the listener, you might have the most expensive smartphone and the fastest fiber optic connection available, but if you cannot navigate this specific language, you are essentially experiencing a highly filtered, heavily localized fraction of the internet.
It acts as a bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck.
While localized internets are rich and vibrant, they do not possess the sheer compounding volume of the global English language internet.
Right.
If you are trying to learn a highly specialized software program, or seeking out obscure historical data, or trying to understand a breaking geopolitical event from multiple primary sources,
where do you go?
The deepest and most frequently updated reservoirs of that data are going to be found in English.
Wow.
The text is essentially framing the language not just as a communication tool, but as the mandatory decoder ring required to unlock the full bandwidth of the web's resources.
It makes you realize how much invisible infrastructure dictates our daily lives. Now, up to this point, the source material has been highly pragmatic.
Very focused on utility.
Right. We are talking about leveraging a language to extract value, extracting knowledge from academic books, extracting a salary from an international company, extracting data from the internet.
It's all very transactional.
Exactly. But then the text introduces the fourth pillar, and the entire philosophy pivots.
It takes a turn.
Asukur states, English helps us to connect with the world. We can talk to people from different countries, learn about different cultures, and share our ideas globally.
This is where the source elevates the endeavor of learning entirely. It moves away from utility and embraces the deeply human aspect of communication.
It's not just about taking anymore.
Exactly. The first three pillars position the learner as a consumer of global resources. This fourth pillar positions the learner as an active participant.
The phrase that really caught my attention in that section was the final one. Share our ideas globally.
Share our ideas.
Yeah. So much of traditional language education is focused on comprehension. Can you read the sign? Can you understand the instructions? It is passive.
Very passive.
But Asukur empowers the listener here. He implies that the world needs to hear from them.
That is a critical shift in agency. If your thoughts, your cultural experiences, and your unique problem-solving approaches are confined to a single localized language, their impact is inherently limited.
They stay local.
The text suggests that mastering this language gives your personal perspective a global megaphone.
A megaphone. I love that visual.
Furthermore, it highlights the ability to talk to people from different countries. Notice he doesn't just say talking to native English speakers.
Right. He is positioning English as a bridge.
A neutral territory. It is the mechanism that allows a business owner in Tokyo to collaborate seamlessly with a designer in Berlin.
Neither of them are speaking their native language.
Exactly. They are utilizing a shared linguistic infrastructure to bypass their native language barriers. By learning about different cultures through this shared medium, you are engaging in the pursuit of empathy.
Empathy.
It transforms the grueling task of memorizing vocabulary from a chore into a bridge toward profound human connection.
It provides a massive, compelling why for the learner. And it is right after establishing these four towering, life-altering pillars, education, global economics, digital access, and human connection, that the text makes a fascinating structural pivot.
It zooms all the way in.
It zooms right in, the philosophical introduction ends, and Asukur moves into a highly structured practice section.
Right down to business.
I want to walk through exactly what he asks the listener to do because the juxtaposition is stark. After outlining how English unlocks the entire modern world, he simply says, now let's practice a few sentences together. Repeat after me. Learning English opens new opportunities. English helps us communicate with the world. Practice every day to improve your English.
It is a deliberate and sudden grounding of the material.
So what does this all mean? Why spend all this time building up these massive, complex global dynamics, only to follow it up with having the listener repeat three incredibly simple sentences?
It accomplishes two things simultaneously. First, it requires immediate physical action from the learner.
You have to actually speak.
You cannot just intellectualize the concept of learning a language. You must eventually vocalize it. By forcing the student to speak immediately, it breaks the paralysis of analysis.
And the second thing?
Second, if you look closely at the sentences themselves, they are not random phrases about ordering coffee or asking for directions.
Right. It's not, where is the library?
They are declarative statements that reinforce the very pillars he just established. They function almost as psychological anchors. But the true strategic insight of this text, the ultimate takeaway for anyone trying to master a new skill, is buried in his closing advice.
The text states, remember, consistency is the key to success. And then it delivers a highly specific, almost suspiciously low bar promise.
Very low bar.
Even 10 minutes of daily practice can improve your English a lot. I have to be honest, when I read that, it felt like a disconnect.
It seems too easy.
We just discussed conquering global academia and accessing the entirety of the internet's knowledge. Can 10 minutes a day genuinely move the needle on a goal that massive? Or is Asukur just trying to prevent his new students from getting overwhelmed and quitting on day one?
It is certainly a tactic to reduce intimidation, but it is also deeply rooted in the realities of how adults actually acquire complex skills. When faced with a massive goal like fluency, the natural human inclination is to rely on intense, sporadic bursts of effort. A learner might resolve to study for 4 hours every Sunday afternoon.
And usually, by the third Sunday, life gets in the way and the habit dies.
Invariably, the friction of blocking out 4 hours becomes too high, but 10 minutes. The genius of the 10-minute rule is that it completely neutralizes the excuse of time scarcity.
Everyone has 10 minutes.
Everyone has 10 minutes. However, the operative word in his promise isn't 10 minutes. It is the word daily.
The compounding effect.
Exactly. The text relies entirely on the mechanics of compounding effort. 10 minutes of practice does not feel like labor. But from a neurological standpoint, touching the material every single day without fail forces your brain to recognize the information as vital and prioritize its retention.
It tells your brain, hey, we need this.
It is about creating an unbroken chain of engagement. Asaker is arguing that microscopic, relentless consistency will always outperform heroic, unsustainable bursts of effort.
Heroic bursts. Yeah, those never last.
He is breaking down a monumental, intimidating life goal into a daily, highly achievable micro-habit.
That reframes the entire process. It takes the pressure off the outcome and places the focus entirely on the process.
It really does.
If we synthesize everything we have analyzed today, based strictly on this introductory text, the implications for you, the listener, are incredibly clear. This source material demonstrates that a language, and specifically English in this modern context, is not merely an academic subject.
No, it's a tool.
It is a multi-tool. It removes the friction from acquiring a higher education. It acts as the currency that allows you to transition from a local job market to a global talent pool.
A global asset.
It is the necessary decoder ring to access the vast reservoirs of information, videos, and courses stored on the internet. And finally, it is the shared infrastructure that allows for genuine cultural exchange and the global amplification of your own unique ideas.
And the most practical takeaway is how accessible the text makes this transition. It does not matter what your current baseline is.
It really doesn't.
The source explicitly addresses a wide spectrum of motivations. Whether you are navigating university materials, seeking better job prospects, or just desiring to share your ideas with a broader audience, the methodology remains identical.
10 minutes a day.
The text argues that you do not need innate genius or hours of free time to unlock these massive global opportunities. You simply need the discipline to engage with the material for 10 minutes, day after day, allowing that small effort to compound over time.
It is a highly strategic approach to tackling any major hurdle in life. You lower the daily barrier to entry so drastically that you simply cannot fail to show up.
It is a highly effective strategy, and the text presents a compelling case for the dominance of English in global systems. However, as we conclude our analysis of this material, I think it is necessary to consider the flip side of this dynamic.
Okay, let's hear it.
This raises an important question. The source makes it clear that English is the current master key to the world's information and global connection. But if so much of our shared global knowledge and culture is filtered through just one language, what unique, diverse ideas might we be missing out on when we only look for answers in English?
That is a phenomenal point to consider. The tool that connects us might also be acting as a filter for what information rises to the top.
Exactly.
I highly recommend you mull that over as you go about your week. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this breakdown has given you a new perspective on how to approach your own goals, whatever they may be. Keep exploring the material around you, keep questioning the frameworks, and remember to protect those 10 minutes of daily consistency. We will catch you on the next deep dive.